Today I'm going to be taking you through everything you need to know for playing a mage in WoW Classic in Phase 1, which is going to be Molten Core and Elixir. We're playing mage here. We're going to go through the talents, rotation, pre-biz, biz gear, different options of gear as well, whether you are a rich gold farmer or just somebody farming dungeons like an average Joe. We're also going to go through consumables and enchants and things like that, and where to get everything. Let's then start off with the talent build we are going to be going with. So you may or may not be aware that in WoW Classic, especially in Phase 1, Frost is the way to go. However, funnily enough, at level 60, we're not putting that many talents into Frost. It actually looks like we're more of an arcane mage. This is going to be the highest Frost damage dealer. Another funny thing to think about is that a fire mage would actually, in my opinion, do more damage. However, remember that Phase 1 is Molten Core, fire resistance. Yeah, fire isn't happening. So just something to think about though. So let's start putting those points in. The first thing I would do is put 3 points into Arcane Focus, reducing the chance the opponent can resist your arcane spells, which is sort of like hit chance. You may have noticed when sometimes you cast a spell, they will resist it. This is going to massively reduce that chance to happen by 6%, therefore conserving more of your mana and doing more damage, of course. So a double whammy, in my opinion. 2 out of 2 into Arcane Subtlety, reducing your target's resistance to all of your spells, not just Arcane, that is including Frost, and reducing the threat caused by Arcane spells, which isn't as useful. We're then going to put 4 points into Magic Absorption, and this is really important for our mana. It increases all of your resistances, but also causes all spells you fully resist to restore 4% of total mana as well. Are we going to be resisting that many? Well, that depends on whether you have threat on things and stuff, etc. But we need these points to get further down into the tree as well. Alternatively, you could take 2 points out and put them into Wand Specialization. We're then going to put 5 points into Arcane Concentration, giving you a 10% chance of entering a clear casting state whenever any damage spell hits a target. So basically, whenever a spell hits a target, you've got a 10% chance of reducing the mana cost of your next spell completely. 1 out of 1 into Arcane Resilience, increasing our armor by 50% of our intellect, a massive amount of survivability there. 3 out of 3 into Arcane Meditation, 15% of our mana can regenerate while casting, which is fantastic again for our mana. And 3 out of 3 into Improved Arcane Explosion. This is going to help us get further down into the tree, which is going to be Presence of Mind. When activated, your next mage spell within a casting time of less than 10 seconds is instant cast. More on that in the rotation part of the video. Arcane Mind, pretty obvious with this one. It's going to increase your mana by 10%. 3 out of 3 into Arcane Instability, increasing spell damage and crit chance by 3%. And lastly, another cooldown, Arcane Power. When we activate Arcane Power, our spells deal much more damage, however, will cost more mana. Then we can finally go into our Frost tree, increasing or reducing, the casting time of our Frostbolt by half a second, which is massive. We're going to be using a lot of Frostbolt. 3 out of 3 into Elemental Precision, reducing the chance the opponent can resist your Frost spells by 6%. 5 out of 5 into Ice Shards, increasing the crit damage bonus of Frost spells by 100%. 3 out of 3 into Piercing Ice, increasing damage done by Frost spells by another 6%. 1 point into Arctic Reach, increasing the range of our Frostbolt and Blizzard and the radius of our Frost Nova and Cone of Cold. We've got 3 spell talents left to use, and I'm going to put these into Frost Channeling, reducing the mana of our Frost spells and reducing the threat again by our Frost spells. And I actually love how this build is put together. There's a lot of mana talents in here, there's a lot of frost damage in here, and there's also a lot of things increasing our resistances and reducing the resistances of our enemies. For single target rotation, very simply, you are going to be using Frostbolt. And that's it. You could use a Fire Blast or Arcane Explosion as well, just to finish off enemies, as these are instant cast spells. But generally, we are just going to be using Frostbolt. And that's it. Ta-da! That's the rotation, everyone. Frostbolt. If you are doing multi-target rotations, you can use your Cone of Cold and then your Blizzard And again, using Arcane Explosion to finish off enemies. But that really is going to be it. I'm not going to be going through the multi-target rotation for AoE soloing, as this is more of a level 60 and raiding guide. Regarding the cooldowns we're going to be using, don't forget we have our Presence of Mind, making our next mage spell with a casting time instant. We can use this with Frostbolt, and we can use it with Arcane Power as well, which is going to make things very mana inefficient. However, we are going to do a lot more damage with our Frostbolts there. You have also got things like Evocation to help get your mana back, and we can blink for utilities as well. For WoW's Anniversary Classic servers, I'm partnering up with Zygor Guides to bring you the fastest leveling experience you can get. Whether you're farming, questing, or gearing up in WoW Classic, we all know it can be a massive grind, but it doesn't actually have to be. With Zygor, whether you're exploring new areas, doing dungeons, leveling, or just farming mobs, they have got you covered for the fastest ways possible, making your life also as easy as possible in WoW Classic. Zygor can overlay maps for zones you haven't even discovered yet, adding waypoints and routes so that you know how to get around the map even easier. It could also help with gearing, whether it's which quest reward to pick, or if an item in your inventory is actually an upgrade or not. Zygor can also alleviate the stress of weighing out stats and options at every single step. And the same can also be said for talents. It can actually guide you in picking your talents at every single level, so that you can work smarter and not harder. Some of my favourite features, for example, are when farming mobs and doing quests, it can actually show you different locations, so that if a specific zone is full of bots or other players, you don't have to worry, you can go somewhere else. You could also skip parts you don't want to do, coming back and into the guides at ease for the fastest leveling experience. Use my code in the description with the link Javier for 20% off. Now going through the pre-biz gear that we can get, you're going to be doing a few specific dungeons, and if I just tab into my WoW, I'm on my Druid at the moment, what we are generally going to be doing here is going to be Skolomance, Stratholme, Blackrock Spire, and Blackrock Depths. I would heavily advise you, if you're farming pre-biz gear, to get the Atlas loot add-on here, as you can literally just click the drop down, and let's say I look at Skolomance, and I can just click different bosses and see what they drop. Like, for example, the Headmaster's Charge, which is a fantastic staff there. That's generally what I use for my pre-biz farming. So, starting off with the head, we've got the Spellweaver's Turban. That is from General Drakasaf in Blackrock Spire. The way I've done these points here, I've actually put these together basically on a point system where, you know, frost damage and spell damage are worth more than things like spirit, etc. And I've done a weighting so that we can actually work out what is the absolute best items and where to get them. And these is my point system here. I have got a full link to my complete builds on my Patreon, link in the description if you would like to join. It also massively, of course, supports the channel. And that is for every single spec in WoW Classic I have these for. So again, Blackrock Spire upper on the general, and there's also this one, Crimson Felt Hat from Stratholme as well. If you see these on here, it says 8 spell damage and healing, intellect, 30 spell damage. These are the enchants that you can see that you should be getting. Stratholme with Cannonmaster Wily for the neck. Boreal Mantle, which is Blackrock Depths on the shoulder. Another option, again, is Blackrock Depths here with the High Interrogator. I'm just going to whiz through these quite quickly because I don't want to waste your time. Blackrock Depths again with Houndmaster on the cape. The Robe of the Archmage is a fantastic tailoring recipe that you can only use as a mage, and it is bind on pick up, meaning you do need to be a tailor yourself if you want to get this. It is absolutely phenomenal, increasing damage and healing by 40, increasing crit, and you can use to restore mana. An absolutely insane one. Otherwise, the Phrygian Lich Robes from Skolomance from Rails Frost or Whisper is going to be the one you're going to want to try and get. Same again on the wrists. Very difficult to get. Well, maybe not if you're amazing at PvP. The Arena wrist guards from the Arena treasure chest are going to be your pre-biz here. But are you really going to get them? Probably not. The Love Potion quest in Blackrock Depths, however, with the Manacle Cuffs is more likely the one I would actually aim for, just for a normal, you know, an average person here. Elemental Mage Staff, which is a BOE, incredibly expensive, increases damage done by frost spells by 36, and gives you some fire and frost resistance. That fire resistance coming in handy in Molten Core. Again, extremely expensive. Same with the Staff of Jordan. What one are we then going to get? The Celestial Power quest from a mage, Celestial Stave. That's the one you're likely going to get. So Celestial Power quest. Going on to the right-hand side, we've got the Hands of Power from Quartermaster Zygor in Blackrock Spire. On the belt, again, it's Blackrock Depths. You're doing a lot of Blackrock Depths as a mage, it seems. Flare Core Leggings, a BOE from Tailoring. I think this recipe does actually drop in Molten Core. I can't remember. I did look earlier. But it is technically pre-biz, as you can buy it yourself from somebody else who has gone to Molten Core, even if you haven't. Otherwise, again, it's going to be Blackrock Spire. Lower for that one. The Omnicast Booties from the Golem Lord in Blackrock Depths again. There is another one from Blackrock Spire Upper. And then on your rings, you've got Don Mauricio's Band of Domination. Oh, God. In Scholarmonths from Darkmaster Gandling. Otherwise, there's some insanely expensive, but very good BOEs. If you are incredibly rich, the Freezing Band is basically equal to Don Mauricio here, and the Maiden Circle is not far off, which is another BOE. If you can't be bothered with all that, Princess Tempestria in Winterspring and Blackrock Depths, there's another ring there. Again, Blackrock Spire and Blackrock Depths, there's a few more that you can get as well, and the Seal of Rivendare isn't bad as well from Stratholme. Going on to the trinkets, we've got the Briarwood Reed from Upper Blackrock Spire, increasing damage and healing. And then we've got Eye of the Beast, which is for the Horde quest. So only for Horde there. If you are Alliance, I would go to Blackrock Depths yet again with Ambassador Flamelash. And that is the pre-biz gear that I would personally recommend for both the poor and the rich of World of Warcraft there. And again, if you want to get my full builds, including talents, gears, buffs, enchants, etc. The whole point system and all the options, I have got it all available on my Patreon, which I've custom made for you guys here. If we now look at the biz, the turban is still there. The choker of the Fire Lord on the neck from Daddy Raggy in Molten Core. There's going to be obviously a lot from Molten Core here. Burial Mantle still. We've actually got the Onyxia cape on the back for biz, which is really, really nice. It doesn't have fire resistance, annoyingly, though, however. The same robe that I mentioned before on the chest. It's going to be a BOE zone drop from Molten Core for the Arcanist bindings in the biz slot in the wrist. Otherwise, it's, again, obviously it's the pre-biz stuff I mentioned. For the weapon, interestingly, you can actually go with the Azure Song Mage Blade from Golemarg the Incinerator, and in the offhand, the Spirit of Aquamentus from Unguro Crater, It's Dangerous to Go Alone. Those two together do overall have more points on my weighting system than the Staff of Dominance from Golemarg the Incinerator. However, of course, if that does drop on its own, it is just about the same, and it is biz as well. On the hands, it's the same hands we had before. Magna Igniting Cord from a few bosses here in Molten Core. Neverwind Pants are from Daddy Raggy himself again. That's the mage set bonus. And it's going to be the same from Luciferon in Molten Core on the boots as well. We've got Rings of Spell Power, again from Molten Core on the rings. Don Mauricio, etc. are the only things below that. So it really is just this one that's at biz. And then the rest of it is the same. And I don't think I went through the wand. However, it is the Scholarmonths one from Darkmaster Gandling here. That is the biz one from Scholarmonths. Now let's go on to the consumables and enchants and world buffs and where to get them and things like that. Starting off with the world buffs. There is a few here, starting off with the War Chief's Blessing. This is only available to the Horde when somebody hands in the head of Rend Blackhand in Upper Blackrock Spire to Thrall, I think it is, increasing hit points, haste to melee attacks, and some mana. So that is you get that in Orgrimmar. It's the easiest one to get. Basically, when that happens, when someone hands in that head, it drops for everybody in Orgrimmar. Resist Fire. Increases an ally's fire resistance by 83 for an hour. Now, in order to get this, you need a priest to mind control a Scar Shield Spellbinder in Upper Blackrock Spire. When they then mind control them, you will actually be able to cast that on your allies, or the priest will, and that's how you get that. So a bit of an interesting one there. And then we have Songflower Serenade, another interesting one. You can do a quest called Cleansing Felwood. Once you have done that, obviously it's in Felwood, after you've done that, you can then get a repeatable quest that grants you something called a Cenarian Plant Salve. You can then use that Cenarian Plant Salve on a corrupted Songflower in Felwood to loot the cleansed plant, and you get this buff, which is Songflower Serenade. Lastly, Rallying Cry, the Dragon Slayer. It's handed in whenever somebody hands in the head of a Nixia, which is probably the most well-known one. Going down onto scrolls, Scroll of Intellect and Spirit should be pretty cheap on the auction house. Flask of Supreme Power, probably not very cheap, however, is going to increase damage done by magical spells and effects by up to 150 for 2 hours. On your food, it's Run Tum Tuba Surprise, increasing intellect by 10 for 10 minutes. A few other things we have on your weapon. You can put something like Frost Oil. This actually will give it a 10% chance of casting Frostbolt at the opponent when it hits with the melee weapon. So kind of good and bad there. Cerebral Cortex Compound increases intellect by 25, and Juju Ember increases fire resistance by 15 for 10 minutes. These are the ones I would generally recommend. And there you go, guys. That is pretty much everything I think you need to know to play a mage in Phase 1 of the Anniversary Realms for the 2024 Classic Fresh. Hopefully it was helpful. If you do want Zygor, it's massively helpful for leveling, etc. Again, use my code in the description for 20% off, which is Javier even. And you can also join my Patreon to get all my builds for every spec, etc. And I can help you out with any guidance you may need in Discord or on Patreon over there. And check out the channel because I am doing every spec for WoW Classic.